Orlando Bloom just posted this quote, "Each day is a new beginning. What we do today is what matters most." And another, "Bravely overcoming one small fear gives you the courage to take on the next." Two quiet Instagram stories. No names, no context, but fans immediately knew this was about Katy. Today, we'll unpack how Orlando Bloom quietly decided he'd had enough, and why Katy Perry's sky-high ambitions may have cost her the love of her life. Before we dive into this roller coaster, what do you think? If your partner publicly called you really, really challenging, would you stay or walk away? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to know. It was subtle, almost too subtle, but it said everything. Katy Perry posted for the first time since the breakup headlines hit, and the caption was just one word: mood. No explanation, no context, just a carousel of quirky quokka selfies taken during her Lifetime's tour stop at Rottnest Island in Australia. But fans weren't fooled. Behind the adorable marsupial smiles, something felt off. That mood wasn't just a vibe, it was a quiet, emotional scream. Small posts can speak volumes. When a decade-long relationship ends, even a cryptic caption becomes a confession. The downfall didn't start with a fight, it started with a flop. Katy Perry's 143 album was supposed to mark a rebirth. Instead, it marked the beginning of the end. Harsh reviews poured in. Critics called it hollow, fans called it forced. Her futuristic stage performances were mocked online, and the whole thing felt off. And while Katy was spiraling under public pressure, Orlando Bloom was watching it all from the sidelines, trying to support her, trying to be strong. But stress like this doesn't just affect a career. It seeps into every room of your home, every text message, every silence between two people who were once in love. One career collapse can feel like a shared failure in a relationship. Let's be honest, the Lifetime's tour wasn't helping. TikToks of Katy's bizarre onstage glitches and out-of-sync choreography went viral for all the wrong reasons. Zero gravity, zero talent, one user quipped. Another said it felt like watching someone unravel in slow motion. Behind the scenes, sources say Orlando was trying his best to be her rock. But how long can you be someone's emotional support if they're not willing to come back down to earth with you? Eventually, it became too much. The pressure, the performances, the pain, and quietly, they began to live apart, emotionally, then physically. When support becomes survival, love starts to feel like work. While Katy battled headlines and online trolls, Orlando began slipping into the background, literally. Sources revealed they'd been living separately for months, not just emotionally checked out, but physically distant. Yet, amidst the quiet collapse, they kept one thing sacred: Daisy. Their 4-year-old daughter appeared in a rare Instagram moment on Katy's account, a soft reminder of what truly connects them. Insiders say co-parenting remains a priority. Even as their own connection fades, they're trying to shield Daisy from the fallout. You can split from a partner, but never from your child, and that changes how you end things. Katy has often said she tries not to read the comments, whether praise or hate, but we all know that's easier said than done. The negative reception to her tour and album dug deep. She told people that her therapist taught her, "What anybody thinks of you is none of your business." But those words rang hollow. Orlando became her anchor, her emotional support, even joking on Jimmy Fallon that his dog was his emotional support animal because he was so drained. Support can only stretch so far before it snaps. And for Orlando, the emotional load grew heavier than the love could carry. Being someone's safe space is beautiful until it becomes your burden. 6 years engaged, 0 wedding plans. Fans were already skeptical when it came out that Katy's engagement ring was nearly identical to the one Orlando gave his ex. People started asking, was this ever serious? They got engaged in 2019. Their daughter was born in 2020. But by 2024, there was still no venue, no dress, no date. Now, with sources confirming the split, those doubts seem justified. Sometimes the ring is just a placeholder, not a promise.
At one point, they were fighting for the relationship, literally. Both Katy and Orlando openly admitted to couples therapy. It wasn't a taboo topic for them. In fact, they framed it as growth. But digging deeper, it sounds more like damage control. Orlando once described their dynamic as being in 2 different pools. Katy's world was creative chaos, full of glitter and unpredictability. Orlando's was calmer, more private. They didn't speak the same emotional language. Even in their best moments, they struggled to understand each other's lives. When therapy becomes routine rather than repair, it's often a sign the cracks are no longer fixable. Katy's album 143 was presented as her most personal work yet, tied to her experience of motherhood and feminine empowerment. But controversy hit immediately. Why? She collaborated with Dr. Luke, a producer long accused of abuse by Kesha and other artists. Fans were furious. Critics called the move tone deaf. How could an album celebrating feminine energy be tied to someone accused of harming women? The contradiction didn't go unnoticed, and it became part of the wider narrative that Katy was losing touch, not just with her audience, but with her own message. Even for Orlando, who stood by her through many controversies, this was reportedly a point of quiet frustration. He hasn't made a statement, he hasn't posted a breakup announcement, but Orlando Bloom has been speaking in silence. Sources say he's been spending more time in Florida, away from their California life. He hasn't been seen at her shows, he walked red carpets alone. He's waiting until Katy's tour ends to make it official, likely around Christmas, when things can be quietly finalized without creating a media frenzy. One insider put it plainly: Orlando is done. When a relationship ends behind the scenes, long before it ends in public, it rarely ends with fireworks. It ends with distance. Some breakups are sudden. This wasn't one of them. Sources close to the couple said things had been off for months. There was no major scandal, no exposed betrayal, just two people slowly drifting apart under the weight of unmet needs and relentless pressure. What once felt like magic now felt like maintenance. Orlando's quiet step back and Katy's increasing emotional volatility signaled a fading bond. They didn't explode, they eroded, and that's often harder to fix. In May, Katy was on stage performing a love song when she jokingly called out a fan for DMing her man. At the time, it seemed playful. In hindsight, it felt like something else. Insecurity, tension, maybe even jealousy. Then came Orlando's solo appearance at the deep cover premiere. No Katy, no Daisy, just him and a polished silence. These weren't just scheduling conflicts, they were signals, and fans picked up on every single one. Public behavior is often the tip of the emotional iceberg. Katy Perry went to space, literally. Her 11-minute flight with Blue Origin was supposed to be symbolic, a message of progress, power, transformation, but insiders say it felt like a final fracture. For Orlando, it was reportedly the moment he stopped believing they could realign. While she was chasing altitude, he was craving stability. It's poetic in a tragic way. She soared beyond the clouds, while her relationship fell apart on the ground. Sometimes the higher you go, the harder it is to come back down. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who cares about what really happens behind the headlines. Tap that subscribe button and hit the bell, because the second half of this story, it goes even deeper. Katy Perry may have brushed off critics with quotes from her therapist and affirmations about self-love, but the cracks showed. Fans noted changes in her demeanor, the way she talked about herself, the stiffness in her tour performances, the defensive tone in interviews. Even her mood post felt like someone barely holding it together. A source close to the couple said she's been emotionally overwhelmed and that Orlando had grown frustrated with being the only one trying to hold the pieces together. When confidence becomes a costume, even your partner can't tell what's real anymore. Katy once admitted their relationship began on shaky ground. In her 2024 Call Her Daddy interview, she revealed that when they first got together, Orlando had just completed a period of celibacy and had set clear intentions. She, on the other hand, had just gotten out of another relationship and wasn't ready for something serious. She described needing to swim in a different pond. They clashed early, argued often, but came back together again and again. It felt passionate until it became exhausting. Chemistry can't sustain a relationship if compatibility is missing. Throughout their years together, both Katy and Orlando praised each other publicly. They spoke about learning from one another, holding each other accountable, and embracing each other's chaos. But there's a difference between personal growth and relational survival. Learning from someone doesn't mean you can live with them. It was a relationship that demanded constant effort, therapy, patience, emotional labor, and eventually, even the most well-intentioned love burns out when every moment feels like a lesson instead of a connection. Some relationships teach you something, and then they end.
The internet isn't known for its empathy, and this time was no different. Some comments expressed sympathy. I don't even like Katy Perry, but this is rough to watch. Others were harsher. 6 years engaged and no wedding? That tells you everything. A few pointed out that Orlando once publicly said their relationship was really challenging. One fan joked they'd lay down in traffic if their partner said that on record. The overall tone? A mix of sadness, vindication, and speculation. When a love story is this public, so is the dissection. Not all sources are calling it final. One insider claims the breakup isn't imminent and that both parties still hope to work things out. But hope without action is just delay. They've grown apart. Their lives are in different cities. Their priorities
priorities no longer overlap. Even if they haven't called it off officially, the writing is on the wall. There's no date, no ring talk, no public show of unity. Sometimes, a relationship dies quietly, long before anyone admits it's gone. Nearly 10 years, 1 child, 1 million photos, and 0 wedding vows. Katy and Orlando's story wasn't a Hollywood fairy tale. It was a slow-burning, complicated love that endured more than it celebrated. They may never have made it down the aisle, but they made a family, and that's permanent. No matter how far apart they drift, Daisy connects them forever. Their love might not have lasted, but it mattered, and maybe that's enough. Some relationships don't end with betrayal or scandal. They end because life changes, careers shift, emotional needs go unmet, and no one knows how to stop the drift. For Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom, it wasn't about falling out of love. It was about growing in different directions, and that's a heartbreak even fame can't fix. If you want more deep human stories behind the celebrity headlines, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's more where this came from. This video is not professional advice. Please consult a qualified expert for guidance regarding personal, legal, or mental health matters.